Hello listeners, this is Sunny and I'm joined by Johan for the review of the second test match of South Africa's tour of Australia 2012-2013. Hey Johan.
Hey.
So what a match. That last session of the last day, it was perfect test cricket.
It was amazing. If you think about it, on the last day, I think it was about 170 runs that was scored during the whole day. Only 4 wickets fell. So it sounds like it would be boring, but it was one of the most tense and exciting days of cricket that I've ever seen. It was really good. It really went down to the last ball. Incredibly exciting.
Yeah, and everybody gave their 100%. It was really heartening to see the Australian bowlers really dig in. Peter Siddle coming in the last session in his final spell, getting 2 quick wickets and trying to knock over the South African tail. It was really nice to see, and the way he was crushed at the end. My heart really goes out to him.
I've got new respect for Peter Siddle. He bowled so many overs. He was, at the end, a few times, one of his teammates sort of supported him and almost carried him back to his mark, and yet in his last over he was still bowling around the 140k mark. It was incredible. I can't believe that he even remained standing, and he kept bowling very well.
Yeah, he bowled 65 overs in that match, and
yeah,
that was really impressive. Even Ben Hilfenhaus, he bowled 54. Nathan Lyon bowled 90 overs.
Well, of course, the fact that they lost Pattinson meant that the other guys had to pick up the slack. But it's the fact that they bowled so well. They bowled so many overs, and yet they bowled really, really well.
Yeah, that's true. Even though Quiney and Clark and Ponting and Warner all rolled their arms over a little bit, and because, as you said, Pattinson was injured, but still it was the strike bowlers that really, shouldered the burden. And I thought they really did well. Siddle took 4 wickets in the second innings, and he really gave Australia a sniff of a chance of a victory, of an unassailable 1-0 victory.
Yes,
but
I was actually, they almost gave me a heart attack, or at least an ulcer, because I couldn't relax at all. It was the whole time. They looked like they were going to take a wicket the whole time. There was never a time on that last day when we looked really comfortable.
Well, you can breathe a sigh of relief now, Johan, because it looks like Siddle and Hilfenhaus might not be playing in the next game on Friday. So you kind of have that to look forward to.
Yeah, I actually, I'm not surprised, at least for Peter Siddle. I can't think that he would 4 days later, be able to play another test match.
Yeah, I think Mickey Arthur also just suggested that they're going to monitor Peter Siddle really carefully, and he's probably not going to be bowling any overs during the net sessions. And I don't know if you really want to turn up to a test match without having bowled any balls. So it's kind of those situations where you kind of know that there's going to be big changes happening in that lineup. But going back to the last day, some amazing stats. 376 deliveries faced by Faf du Plessis, and over 200 faced by A.B. de Villiers. I don't think I've ever seen A.B. de Villiers bat that slow.
Well, I definitely haven't. And during the whole first session, he only scored 14 runs. So again, it sounds like it should be boring, and yet it was exactly what was needed at the time. He's A.B. de Villiers. I think it's like the lowest strike rate ever for somebody that has scored more than 30 runs. It's But it was he and Faf du Plessis were perfect during that first session.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I think his strike rate was sub 20. I think it was like 15 or something. That's what he
Yeah.
scored at. And wow, that was some last day. You know, you went in hoping for any one of three. Well, I'm not going to say
Not
any one of
really.
three. Yeah,
I
but
mean, we were out of the game by that time, and it was really about salvaging the draw. But the fact that we lost 4 wickets the previous evening and in fairly quick succession didn't give me a lot of hope that we were, going to survive until tea time, let alone, salvage the draw.
exactly. Yeah, South Africa was 77 for four, and yeah, no,
Yeah,
I thought, and they had to chase 430, which would have been the second highest fourth inning score at the Adelaide Oval. I think the highest is 445 a few
yeah,
years ago, but that wasn't in a chase. That was just a fourth inning total. So this would have
yeah.
been the second highest fourth inning total at the Oval, and it was. Yeah, I didn't expect South Africa to win, but
No, and even go for it because as the test progressed, it started out as a really good batting wicket, but it
mhm.
was a very good test wicket in the sense that it deteriorated a bit. And I think on day five, batting was quite tough. So I don't think it ever crossed the South African team's mind to go for the win.
So it seems like the South African bowling attack is kind of toothless against Michael Clark. What is this now? You know, is he
It,
scored like over
Michael
500 runs
Clark
against you
has
guys
just
already?
been amazing on this tour. I mean, yeah, we don't seem to have an answer for him.
Yeah,
Um,
and you know the Australian batting lineup, barring Rob Quiney and Ricky Ponting, they really put their act together this particular match. You know, Clark scored like over 200 runs. He scored 230. Warner scored a century at over a run a ball. Then Hussey scored a century at pretty decent clip too. He was going at about a strike rate of about 85. And
Yeah, if we go back all the way to day one, the second session, I mean, just about there and then, the Australians almost put the game out of reach for South Africa. On the second session in the first day, they scored more than 100 runs in the first 10 overs after lunch.
yeah,
Scoring more than 10 runs to the over, and we just the South Africans just seemed like we had no answer to it.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
Callis had just gone off injured after taking 2 wickets. Vernon Philander was out of the game, and it also just looked like Smith didn't know what to do. And in a blink of an eye, suddenly they've got 100 extra runs on the board.
yeah, and I, to be honest, I kind of blame Imran Tahir for that. He bowled way too many balls off target. He was not the kind of he was not a test match bowler. That was
He,
definitely something that belongs in club cricket and somebody in grade level cricket bowling. You're a spinner. You're supposed to pitch the ball. It's supposed to land. He was bowling full
yes,
tosses. Is 180 runs in the first innings for no wicket. I think that's a record he deserved for the kind of bowling he did.
it was, yes, he wasn't bowling well at all. He's the kind of guy that you sort of expect him to bowl a bad ball every second or third over, but he was bowling 2, 3 bad balls every over. And because Dumini is out, it's we didn't have a fallback, and so he and Cullis of course was injured, so he ended up bowling a hell of a lot of overs, and it was not good at all. I think he in the first in Australia's first innings, Tahir was taken for more than 7 runs to the over.
7.51, yeah, 7.51 runs per over.
And in the second innings, it was better, but not by a lot.
No, it's like still around 5 runs and over. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, only Dale held everybody back. The first innings went at about 5.12 runs per over for Australia, which is,
Yeah,
you know, one day speed. Like that's how fast they
exactly. And
batted.
and and only the point is Dale Steyn could only bowl so many overs, and he didn't have too much backup. I mean, Morne Morkel seemed like he would take a wicket, but he was also very expensive, and we just didn't have, Vernon Philander, Jacques Callis. They're usually the guys that Smith goes to keep things, keep
Tight.
the scoring rate low.
Yeah.
Rory Kleinfeld bowled a lot better than in the first test, but it's just that first day we weren't able to put any kind of pressure on them at all. They were just scoring freely.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Rory was much better in the second inning than he was in the first. Um,
Definitely.
that hostile spell in the second innings, with the quick wickets, really almost got South Africa back into the game, but the tail wagged again with Michael Hussey in the second innings for Australia. So that whatever momentum Rory had gotten for the South Africans was lost again. Um, I was particularly happy, with Hussey.
Yes.
Century in the first innings, 50 in the second innings, really got Australia up there near setting a target close to 400. I don't think if he hadn't like applied himself as well in the second innings, I don't think Australia would have been anywhere close to that. I think South Africa would have been chasing about
Yes.
375 and it would have been a completely different game. But hats off to Hussey, he's back. He kind of had a slump for a little while last year, as everybody
And his
remembers.
record against South Africa was actually very, very poor before this series, and he's obviously gotten over that. No, he's shown us a thing or two.
Definitely. Now, when South Africa were batting their first innings, it was again nice to see Graham Smith lead from the top. He scored 100. Um, Hilton House, uh, took 3 wickets. Lyon, oh my God, 44 overs in the first innings, and he maintained a chokehold out of 124 overs that South Africa faced. He really had everybody pegged back. There wasn't much people could do against him in the first innings, and I finally got to look at this new ball that he's developed. It's still a doosra. I don't know why they
Yes.
call it the Jeff. It's still a doosra. Uh, but
Yeah, but
I
he bowled well throughout. But I just want to say that this first innings of South Africa is we we lost stupid wickets. Uh, Peterson's run out. I mean, at that stage, Smith and Peterson were cruising. They almost ran into each other, and Peterson doesn't put his bat down,
there
and
was
it's just a stupid run
that was
out.
a schoolboy mistake. You don't expect that at
Yes.
test level. I mean, and especially from a South African, maybe from a lazy Indian named Ganguly, you can expect that.
But
But
and
not
then
from like the South African private school boy. You don't really expect that. Um,
yes, and then Amla falling to Warner. I just couldn't believe it.
I couldn't
Amla was
either. Like
usually so calm and collected, and especially against the spinners. Yeah,
yeah, that was an ugly shot. I don't think he should have. I don't think
yeah,
he should have lost his cool. That's very uncharacteristic of him. But you know what? Hey, everybody makes a mistake. Maybe he'll learn from it. But you know what? It could be that David Warner has the golden arm for the next few years. Like Michael Clark
yeah,
used to. Who knows?
yeah.
David Warner had a good match overall. He scored a century in the
He
first
did.
innings. He took a wicket, and he was like in the ear. He was chirping. He saved a few runs. He put pressure as a fielder on the South Africans. I think he had a good match, and he's turning out to be a good quality player for Australia. Quite in the similar mold to Virendra Sehwag. He's very aggressive, and
Yes,
Ed Cowan and him, I think, make a pretty good, a very good combination. Um, Quiney, on the other hand, the number three, he kind of let
yes.
everybody down, but he's been pulled out of the squad. He's not going to be in the third game, so which is kind of nice. I expect Watson to come in for full swap. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that collapse on the fourth day. with South Africa in the second innings. 77 for four, and they started out okay.
Uh, yes, I thought the test is basically over at the end of the fourth day. I thought that's it. Australia are going to come in the next day and just wrap it up. Yeah, and by the way, again, one of the wickets, Amla again fell to a very uncharacteristic shot. Usually he plays the spinners very well, plays back into his crease at sort of the last moment, just plays the ball, and this was going fairly hard and going forward, yeah, and getting caught in the slips.
Yeah, again, like I think that was Ponting that took that catch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So 430 to chase. You slimmed down to 77 for four. It's not good, but kind of feel a little bad for the Australians. They really tried their heart out, but let's be honest, they should have on the fifth day with so much scoreboard pressure. They should have taken those 6 wickets. I know the South Africans went ahead and like they pulled you know what seems like a victory to them out of the jaws of defeat, because when it goes about momentum at the end of the first match, I felt Australia came out on top, even though it was a draw, was because the momentum finishing the match is amazing. I think the momentum
Yes.
switched all the way again, and it's back in South Africa's camp because of this amazing escape act. And I
Yes,
think that's
and I think it would on the Australians if they can't push such a big advantage home, then they must start. So even though they had the best of us just about pretty much during the whole test, I think the fact that we were able to get the draw was was a very positive thing for us.
yeah, and another new South African star is born in Australia. 4 years
Yes,
ago, it
he
was
came in as a replacement for JP Duminy, and he did his best JP Duminy impression.
yeah, exactly. And JP Duminy came in for
Ashwell
Ashwell
Prince.
Prince. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's very similar. It's uncanny how that happened. So now the last match is at the Wacker, the bounciest, paciest wicket in Australia. Over the years it had kind of slowed down, but I think a few years ago they dug up the square, they relayed the pitch, and it's back to being fast. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think are the strengths of the South Africans going into match number three?
Well, firstly, I hope that Vernon Philander is fit and able to play. We know that Jacques Kallis won't be bowling, even if he is picked and if he is going to be batting, and even that is not certain. So maybe, hopefully, we'll see the South African bowling attack actually looking dangerous, because we've really just fallen flat in the first two tests. There was all this talk before the series about South Africa being the best or one of the best bowling attacks in the world, and it just hasn't materialized. So hopefully in the last test we see what everybody was expecting, but that we didn't get in the first two tests, and that is Steyn, Morkel, and Philander, the three of them, just making life difficult for the Australian batsmen and taking loads of wickets. The other question is whether Tahir is going to be in the team, or whether they're going to give Robin Peterson a go. I almost feel like they have to do that. After the way Tahir bowled in this test, I don't think you can justify having in the team. He really didn't bowl well.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I don't see Imran Tahir being any good on the Wacker, given the way he's
Yes,
been bowling. If he was somebody like Anil Kumble in his last match at the Wacker did it exceptionally well because he extracts a lot of bounce off of the
yes,
surface. Tahir doesn't really do that. He actually depends a little bit more on the fizz off the surface and a little bit of turn. He's not that much
Yes.
about the bounce. So I don't see his style coming in that handy. And as you said, he was too wayward.
Yes.
They can't take the risk. I think Peterson might be a better idea. Um, and I do have to say that maybe they need to fly in another man for cover. Get it out the pacer.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit late for that.
Yeah, but if Philander's back, I think they should give Rory another chance because I think Rory deserves another chance, especially on a pace-friendly wicket. When it comes to Australia, I think it's been in the news that there's been some massive changes coming in through the bowling lineup. The batting lineup's not going to change much. Ponting still has the faith of the selectors. They still wanted to kind of give him the chance to play the 2013 Ashes. The only batting change I see is Rob Quiney losing his place to Shane Watson, and I don't think Shane Watson's going to be bowling. But the biggest changes that I think are going to be happening is in the bowling lineup. If Siddle's not fit, if Hilfenhaus is not fit, given the fact that Pattinson also got hurt and he's not available, Australia is looking at a really green attack for the last match of a very important series. They're looking to recall Johnson, who
Yes.
bowls to the left and he bowls to the right. This Mitchell Johnson, his
But
bowling's
he's
not
got
so
a very
good.
good record against South Africa.
Well, he does, but his recent record hasn't been too promising. Although his recent record at the Wacker, it's been okay. He's been in the wickets. He hasn't had a fifer in a while, but he's been getting 2 wickets in innings, 3 wickets in innings for not too many runs, with a decent enough strike rate. So I can see why they
Yeah.
want to go horses for courses and give him a chance. But you have to remember, he's going to be the highest capped bowler on that team. I don't think they're going to go in with Lyon on that pitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're looking at Mitchell Stark, who's only played 4 tests for 10 wickets. They're John Hastings and Josh Hazelwood, they've both been mentioned to join the test squad, but if they actually play, it's going to be debuts for them.
Yes.
John Hastings has played 25 first class matches. He's taken about 86 wickets at about 23 odd. He also is okay with the bat. He averages about 26 with the bat lower down the order, which is not too bad in Sheffield Shield cricket because of the high standard of cricket that they have down in Australia. Josh Hazelwood, he's taken 43 wickets in 15 first class matches, but at 31. So obviously Hastings might be a better choice. He's obviously a better choice stats wise to be in the team, but I don't know what's going to happen with Lyon if Australia and Michael Clark like they seem that they like to think outside the box a lot. If they actually go with Lyon, I think Hazelwood's going to lose out on his place. But at the same time, when you look at this bowling lineup, you're looking at you're looking at outside of Mitchell Johnson, less than 10 tests for the entire team, for the entire bowling lineup. So it's really difficult. It's really crazy that such a green attack is going to be in the final match. And I think it's advantage South Africa in that way too.
Yes, again, it's sort of they put so much in this previous test that yeah they've run out of reserves kind of thing, and yeah, well, it is an advantage to us, especially Siddle. I mean, he's just in the first 2 tests he was Australia's best bowler by far,
Yeah.
and they felt that they had to go for the win, and they overbowled him. So yes.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And, it's kind of nice that the South African bowlers were probably sitting in the dressing room drinking some beers, relaxing in the shade, while their Australian counterparts had to run in the heat and the humidity of Adelaide. All right, so wrapping this up really quickly, Johan, what do you think is going to be the starting probable 11?
Um, yeah, it's tough to say. I don't think. Well, one thing that I've said previously is that I would like to see Solekile play come in that we have a specialist wicket keeper, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think basically um, the top five, top six are going to remain the same. It's really only a question of which bowlers. Do you go for assuming that Vernon Philander is fit, are you going to go for the four seamers? I don't think they're going to play Tahir. So are you going to put it in Robin Peterson in his place? I think that's basically the only question.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, I don't think at this late stage, I would actually like to see Tolekile in Rudolph's place, but I would doubt that they were going to, if they were going to do that, they would have done that earlier.
yeah. I think with Carlos's injury, the balance of the South African team is really, really shaken up a little bit.
We've gotten so used to basically having an extra player, a real frontline batsman and frontline bowler. And if he isn't definitely not going to bowl, but if he's fit at least to bat, yeah, we basically one bowler short. So maybe the right thing to do is going to be to go with the four seamers. But after that decision turned out to be disastrous in the first test. So I don't know whether South Africa would want to go in without a specialist spinner. But the specialist spinner that we had in Tahir, he didn't perform.
Yeah,
So it's really a tough one.
yeah. I think Australia are in a similar position too. I think their starting 11 is going to be Cowan partnering Warner at the top of the order, Watson coming in one drop, Ponting, Clark, Hussey, Wade, Johnson, Stark. I don't want to say Hazelwood, but I think Hastings might get the nod, and Nathan Lyon. But if they're not going in with a spinner, then I think Hazelwood stands a chance to play. Again, I think both the teams are really not balanced enough, but I think it's advantage South Africa taking the series 1-0.
I hope you're right because at the beginning of the series, I was convinced that our bowlers are just going to tear through the Australians, and so far our bowlers have not been able to do it. So hopefully this last test will be different. But I don't want to get too excited. One thing we have to get Michael Clark out twice, which in itself seems to be impossible.
Without him scoring 500 runs on you guys.
Yes, of course, of course.
So yeah,
But I think at least mentally the advantage is with us.
yeah. I think you're right there, and this has been a delicious series so far. It's a pity it's not five
Even though
matches.
we haven't had a result yet.
Yeah, that's very true, and it really like hurts me that why is this three matches? There should have been at least four, if not five.
Yes.
This series deserves to be five matches, but it's not. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it from us today. Join us next time as we review one of the next matches coming up. Thank you for listening.